Hey, welcome back, YouTube. I got an incredible friend with me that I've been following on social media. Has been doing a lot of great stuff in the world of real estate. Had an opportunity to link up with Daniel out in Las Vegas not too long ago at Ryan Pineda's WealthCon. Got to hang out with him for a few minutes backstage. But welcome, Daniel. How you doing today, brother?
Yeah, thanks for the show. I mean, like, big fan of you. I mean, like, Jamil, I love like this, like your journey and then WealthCon, dude. Like, you had so much good wisdom, like both on the stage and backstage. So I'm just thankful for just like getting to hang out with you again and spend some time just like chatting it up on the thing we both love, which is real estate investing, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a fun path and journey that we're on here. And one of the things that I've been really focusing on and looking at over the last year of my life is, balancing the pursuit of financial freedom, wealth creation, and also just having like a normal life, right? Like, how do you do this well with a family? And I've had my share of failures in ways, and I'm learning how to do this in a more holistic manner, and trying to reconcile being an entrepreneur, being a successful entrepreneur, and also being a successful man,
yeah,
right? Being a successful father, being a successful husband, and
I
all
mean,
of that can
yeah,
be
like
hard.
yeah, I mean, like, and like when you're on stage, you had a lot of really good insight, and even off stage, I think just as entrepreneurs, we're so driven and we're so focused, right? So we get that narrow, just kind of like tunnel vision where we're just trying to pursue our financial goals, but then sometimes we got to make sure that our family and our relationships and our health are not taken by the wayside as long as while we're pursuing things. So I think just getting to chat with you, kind of seeing your perspective and things, like actually like just had some tweaks in my personal life where I'm just trying to like actually make a few small changes to kind of make sure that we're on the same page as far as like me and my wife and like my health. Like make sure I get in that in and not just trying to like build like a financial empire for like and be lonely at the top, right? So
It sure is. So let's dive into that. What got you involved in real estate investing? I'm gonna just say this, and please don't take it the wrong way, but I'm an Asian person. You're an Asian guy. Our parents don't pop us out and say real estate investor.
yeah.
No, for me it was like doctor, and
Mhm.
I'm sure there was some familial pressure on your end for you to follow in the footsteps, or to do something that maybe your parents wanted you to do. So how did you even find yourself as an entrepreneur? What were some of the struggles that you had with your family and making this decision, and was there supposed to be a different Daniel Kong down a different road?
I mean, it's funny you say that because well, I mean, my whole life was like get good grades, get a good job, right? So I got good grades through high school. I went to college for 4 years, and then right after college, I became a software developer. Typical Asian like job, right? Like a engineer. Did that for a long period of time. Was just, I mean, was kind of getting by with life. I mean, like I was very happy, but financially it wasn't so great. And then in 28, the end of 2018, I read this magical book called Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then like literally like this book like it opened my eyes to the whole world of passive income, which I never even knew existed. I thought you work a job till you're 65, you get a 401k, then you retire. That was like my plan in life. And so when I read this magical book, I was like, there's actually a way where you can actually get money passively and not work. Like that whole idea to me, that it like literally blew my mind.
What's
So
so funny about that book is it actually was the first book that I ever read too, that kind of spurred me into the world of entrepreneurship. I came to find out he never even wrote it.
really,
He never even wrote that book.
I didn't ever do that till you just told me that just
It was
now.
it was a, I've like, do I feel like I just told you there was no Santa Claus?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I'm not sure if I believe you now. I'm gonna have to
No,
like.
I mean it. It was ghost written.
Okay, okay.
It was a ghost written book, and he put his name on it because he had a brand and was able to make it a thing. And of course it propelled Robert to the like heights of his career, and he made so many Rich Dad Consulting, and then the board games and all the things. And so like he took it and ran with this, with the meteoric success. And kudos to that ghostwriter for creating one of the most popular books in the entrepreneur space ever written.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would hate to be that ghostwriter at some level, because I'm like, Oh my God. I basically wrote like Harry Potter for
Yeah,
entrepreneurs, and it's not my name on it, right?
yeah,
It's like someone else. So, but anyhow,
yeah.
regardless of who wrote it, the book was phenomenal, and it absolutely opened my eyes to so much. And it gave me a perspective shift, right? So you
Mhm.
read this magical book, you're a software engineer right now. Your life is ones and zeros, very binary.
Yeah.
And now you're like into this creative space of cash flow and finding assets to pay your liabilities, and having and adopting this rich dad mindset. So what was that transition like? How did you unstick yourself from the world of software engineering and stick yourself into the world of being an entrepreneur?
Well, in certain ways, I think yes, there is a slight like mental shift as far as creativity. But when I looked at it from a software developer mindset where it just logically made sense. There was like numbers at the end of the day, right? Like, I need this much passive income to leave my W-2. Like if I buy a house for this much and I renovate it for this much, it was really just like a numbers game for me. And so like in the beginning, it was like a huge like I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't know anything about construction. I didn't know anything about investing. So just okay, the first step is just learn as much as you can. So I literally was reading like 3 or 4 books a week. I was like super hungry. I was just trying to I was on the Bigger Pockets forums. I listened to podcasts. I was just trying to like educate myself as much as possible. My conclusion came was that I needed to use a burr strategy to build up enough passive income to replace my job as a software developer. Once I did that, I'm gonna live on the beach and just like drink mai tais and just like sail off into the sunset. That was my original plan.
And that didn't work out.
Well, so I'm actually it worked it to a degree. So
Okay.
I started out of state in Indianapolis because I thought Hawaii is too expensive. So like we were doing like these burrs in Indianapolis, and honestly, like I read everything. I read like the book by David Green, Long Distance Real Estate Investing. I just followed what that book said, just like listened to the advice, and I just did what it said, and I just started picking up these burr properties out of state. They at the end of the day, after like maintenance, like cash flow, like the property management, their cash flow, like $200 a door, like net, right? And so I was like, okay, if I just need to get 50 of these guys, boom, then I can quit my job. So eventually, like I started out of state, it started kind of, it was just had the train rolling. And then I was like, let's try in Hawaii flip houses because in Hawaii it's like a terrible cash flow market, but it's great for flipping.
Yeah.
The same skill set that I was learning in Indianapolis applied to Hawaii. I got very lucky in Hawaii. I got a couple of very big bird deals that cash flow like really high in Hawaii, basically allowed me to supercharge my net cash flow, and then I actually replaced my income as a software developer by the end of or by mid of 2021. So in about 2.5 years, I was able to like burn my way out of my job. But I got some luck from like COVID. Like there's some other things that happened during that time where like prices were going up, rents were going up. And I got a little bit lucky in a few specific deals. But eventually, 2021, okay, I replaced my income as a software developer. I just had to convince my wife, like, hey, hon, like we got this income coming in. Can I quit my job? So that was another 6 month negotiation process. But eventually, she let me quit my job at the end of 2021, and then from there, I was just like, hey, time to just ride off into the sunset and like I'm just gonna live on the beach. But at that time, it was kind of crazy because I had grown so much as an entrepreneur and just kind of getting into space. It kind of forces you to grow as a person while you're on this journey. And the person that I was in 2021 was drastically different than I was in the beginning of 2019. And at the time, I had some momentum. We had some flips going on. We were like building like relationships, and it was just the momentum of the success. So like, hey, I can't just stop right here. Like, there's so much more for me to accomplish in life, and I want to do with my like go to the next level in finances. And so from there, we started flipping houses. We started like building a small team, and then just trying to get progress as an investor. Eventually, now we're doing some commercial properties, but you're just trying to take the next step to kind of like increase yourself as a entrepreneur and as a businessman. So
Amazing. So, are you born and raised in Hawaii, or how did
yeah,
you
yeah.
find yourself there?
Born and raised in Hawaii, so it's my hood. So,
It's your hood. Amazing. And so, I think it's really cool that you're investing there and that you're flipping properties there, but then also, you're doing stuff off of, off the island and into the mainland. So, are you still virtually investing in low appreciation, high cash flow markets?
So we're doing. Like the I think that the goal as an investor is you're always trying to level up, right? So I think
Yep.
when I was in the single family homes in Indianapolis, they were good, but like the amount of equity you get per deal is like 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 grand in like equity that you're actually like creating. But then the deals we're doing in Hawaii, like we're making like 6 figures, like in like a pop up deal. It's just there's way more like profit per deal, and so like it didn't make sense for me to go back to the singles in out of state. What we're trying to do now is buy like bigger assets, and so like now it's like the commercial office retail is kind of like what we've landed on as far as like the bigger price points, and then trying to burn commercial properties in Kansas City. And so that's kind of like what we're doing on the out of state market right now.
So you're doing large commercial value add repositions and then leasing them up, getting the net cash flow to a high enough level that you can refinance, pull all your initial investment out of the deal, and then cash flow the rest of the of the thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's just birds on a bigger scale, and then the way they're valued, as you mentioned, was they're not valued on the comp system. They're valued on the NOI and the
Yep.
cap rate of the area. So I mean, we just pivoted. So I mean, there's a couple
So
reasons.
what type of commercial? Because commercial is still pretty depressed here in the mainland. Well, especially in Arizona here, I can speak for this specific market. I had Hannah Hammond on one of my podcasts recently, and she's a really big commercial broker here in Phoenix, Arizona, and she's been definitely impacted by
Mhm.
the commercial real estate market in itself has just been somewhat depressed here, and the regular retail strip mall more so with work from home, with so much of retail shopping going online. There's
Yeah.
just been a renaissance of how people are doing business in that way. So what type of commercial developments are still successful that you can burr out of it once you reposition them and increase the rents?
That's a really, really good point. I think so. Like when you're looking at the landscape of commercial, I mean, large office, terrible. I mean, like there's hundreds of like vacant office buildings that they're trying to reposition as multifamily, et cetera, just because people are working from home. There's like Amazon's taking over. So like there's a lot of like pressure on that market as far as like the forces, like negative forces that you have to like deal with, right? And
Right.
so these are things that you definitely have to take into account as you're looking for like your opportunities. But at the same time, whenever like everybody's scared, there's also like more opportunities in that space.
There
So
is. So have you been focusing on a certain niche?
yeah, so like I mean, so the reason why we like kind of like commercial is like number one is multifamily in the last like 10 years has been like super hot, right? Like everybody and their moms trying to buy multifamily property. We actually syndicated like a 102 unit in Houston. But then the challenge, I mean, one of the challenges with multifamily is the cap rates are so compressed that when you refinance out of them with like a 4 or 5 cap rate, you're not cash flowing positive with debt service. So then, like at the exit, if you're trying to burr a multifamily property, typically if you're going to use the cap rates that they're currently like being valued as, you're not going to be cash flow positive. The good part about commercial is because it's everyone's scared of it, then the cap rates are high on the exit. So you're looking at like a 7.5 or 8 cap on your exit. That means that when you pull your cash out, now you actually positive cash flow when you're doing the refinance. And so if you're positive cash flow, I mean, just those are things where like in like the long term, you can hold it, you can choose to do whatever you want. It's like safer in the terms of the cash flow wise as far as just like the cap rate itself. And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that because like you said, everybody there's like a fear of like of commercial and office retail in general. There's just way less players, there's way less competition in the market because it seems scary. And so like anything, when things seem scary, they're just people are just they don't
Absolutely.
want to investigate more. They don't dive into like the details. I just want to stay away from this thing.
So
So
what type of businesses are you leasing these properties out to?
So I mean, when you're looking at a commercial property, like the location is important, but the location, like sub-location, is super important. So like when you look at let's take a single family house, like let's say like in my neighborhood, one house is on the main road, one house is not on the main road. They basically sell for the same price. But when you look at a commercial property, if there's a commercial property that's on the main road and gets a lot of foot traffic, there's one right behind it. The one in front is, even though they'll rent for a similar price, the one in the front is way more valuable because it's way easier to lease up. So whenever you're looking at these commercial properties, you have to look at what's the traffic that's getting, what's the vicinity to either a bigger, larger like commercial mall or the other kinds of things that will kind of help it along. And then what's the ease that this guy will be leased up. So there's like parking, there's visibility, there's foot traffic. There's all these things that play a factor into like how easily or how fast or how safe it is as far as leasing, which is separate from the actual price per square foot.
So are there factors that you have your boxes checked to say, okay, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this?
Yeah, I mean, so the big thing is just location. So I mean, there's two locations. There's a location of like the area, which is like the general area. So like I mean, if you're like in, let's take the D, C, A, or like those kind of neighborhoods, right? So the general, what's the general economic factors of that general area population, etc. Then there's kind of like the sub area of like where is it as far as location to like the other main assets. Is there like a movie theater? Is there a shopping mall? Is there like food like outlets in the near area where there's also other commercial things that are doing well successfully? So your neighbors are also doing well. And then within that, where is like, is it on the main road or is it a guy on the back? And so like all those things come into play when you're looking at like how safe or how easy it will be to re-tenant these things or to find a new tenant in case your tenant leaves, etc. And so the trick is making sure that you're going to be in like a great location, number one, for all those three factors, whether it's the general economic area that the people there have money, they can spend money, etc. There's less like for crime. It's also like red state and blue state, right? Whereas like certain companies like places like, let's say California, like this crazy where you're, I mean, like the looting and those kind of things, right? Whereas like we're in Kansas City, it's a lot more red state, where it's okay, like they'll protect the police will enforce like the laws of like don't rob your stores, etc. And then there's like the location in relation to other establishments, and then there's like a sublocation of this particular building. Where does it sit in like the actual traffic, like the highways, the foot traffic, etc.
So you're doing a deal right now in Kansas City. It sounds like a commercial property that you're going to be leasing up in Burring. Is that correct?
We have a bunch going on right now, but yeah, I mean we have a few. So yeah,
Does it make you nervous to get involved in these large scale projects remotely?
So yes and no. I mean, whenever you do something remotely, it's not as much fun because you can't walk by and like check the properties by yourself. That's where it turned it you cause you to rely on a team. So I mean, like when I first started investing out of state, actually, like I started out of state before I did my in-state stuff. So I kind of had a skill set of building a team. I mean, basically, it's like you build a friendship overseas with Zoom calls, with phone calls, and like you can really vet your operators and like the people there like remotely as far as just like referrals, phone calls, etc. And then the trick is to keep them accountable, right? So well, you don't touch base with them regularly. Just like the mice go out to play right when the cat's not around, and it's not like their fault or anything. It's just human nature, and so just making sure that you're holding them accountable to like what's your goals and like what we agreed upon on the front end. That's a big part of like the management or the reposition of these assets. But I mean, it takes a rock star property management team, a broker to try and find you the deals. You need to work with contractors. I mean, home inspectors, all different kind of like subs that are involved like in this process.
Do you find yourself traveling a lot to these remote areas or to these virtual markets that you're invested in to just double check and make sure things are where they're supposed to be?
So we're only in one market, I mean, Kansas City, because like we need to build a team. And so like it takes so much time and energy and effort to build that team. Is like I don't have the energy or bandwidth to build it in multiple markets because like I
Sure.
do need to make sure that like we're continuing like our relationship. And then when you have multiple properties with the same company, now you have like a bigger voice, more leverage. Like they'll take your cause like more seriously, right? And so we built like a pretty strong team in Kansas City. And then when like as far as like the maintenance and like the repositioning of it, I don't think it's super important for you to go and visit like regularly because there your property manager will be sending you like updates, pictures, videos, and kind of like walking through that process. But when you're visiting it for the purchase, that's really important because that's when you're gonna get a view of like, hey, what is the neighborhood like? What's like the vibe of like the area? And like you really have to visit these things in person because you can't Google map it. You can't just look from the like. I mean, this is where like it really matters on like what's the street that's coming up behind. Like, how do you get there? Is like there's a whole bunch of nuances that you physically have to see the commercial properties and like how they're situated with like next to like other places. Is there like a dump next door? Is like a pawn shop? I mean, what's around the area besides just Google Maps? And so when you're purchasing it, I think it's super important to go and like actually walk it and see like the opportunities. And so because we're regularly purchasing, or we're trying to purchase a lot of things, we probably go up to like the Kansas City maybe like 2 or 3 times a year just on like purchase trips. But while we're doing that, we're also checking on our existing properties and like maintaining our relationship with our team, et cetera, that's over there.
Awesome. Now, while this is all going on in Kansas City, you're still flipping houses in Hawaii?
Yeah. I mean, so I mean, we got like a little machine going on here, just flipping houses in Hawaii. And actually, the reason why we went to Kansas City for this stuff was like number one is cash flow, but also depreciation. Because when you look at like, let's say you buy a $1 million house in Hawaii, because all the values in the land, like 200,000 is like the house, and like 800,000 is the actual land. So for $1 million purchase, you got let's say like a little dinky $200,000 house that rents for like $3 grand a month or something, right? You take that same $1 million, you buy a commercial property in Kansas City. Now it's $100,000 for the land and $900,000 for the building. So I've got this like giant, like 40,000 square foot building, or like this building where it has way more renters, way more cash flow. So then the cash flow is way higher, but also the depreciation. So when we're trying to like, I mean, as a Philippine, like it's like high tax. I mean, like you're just active income, right? So we're trying to say, how can I shield some of my taxes from like the IRS? Is number part of it is buying assets with depreciation. And so if you buy this commercial property, $1 million, like you put, let's say, like a simple math, you buy for like $200,000 down. On the $900,000 asset, you do a cost seg and a bonus depreciation. In year one, you can get like a $300,000 like loss or depreciation against your active income. So it's just like it makes sense as far as like the taxes and the cash flow. And this thing over like cash, I mean, the gross rent is like 30 grand as opposed to like 3 grand for the same purchase price.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, I've been stuck and caught in the active income tax trap myself, and constantly looking for ways to create some more depreciation. And that's a great note. So, looking at a purchase and actually having more value in the structure than there is in the land is a huge benefit for you.
Yeah.
And that's actually not a factor that I've ever really thought about. So you just opened my eyes to, how I can better leverage my investments when I'm looking for depreciation. So thank you for that, Daniel. That was a
Yeah, no,
great
awesome.
point. And all you guys listening to this and watching this right now, as you start making money as wholesalers, or as you start making money as fix and flippers, or whatever it is that you're doing in real estate, you have to find ways to mitigate your tax implication. And it looks like commercial real estate, or areas where the land value is low but the structure value is high, would be a great way to offset some of that active income, get some depreciation, but also get some cash flow. And so that's a great strategy. Daniel, as you've been building your business and growing your empire, let's talk a little bit about what you've been able to do as a husband, right? Because it sounds to me like you've got a family or a wife there in Hawaii with you. Doesn't sound like you've got any children yet.
No kids yet. No kids yet.
No kids yet. So how are you still maintaining the spice in the relationship, and how are you showing up as a husband? And what advice do you have for people to make sure that they're doing a good job of that as they're building their empires?
I mean, that's a really good question. I think there's like as an entrepreneur, you're always trying to find balance, and like I think we're like I said, we're driven individuals. I have like big financial goals, and like I want to have like some success financially, and let's say in like the risk investing world. But then like a lot of times is like I focus so strongly on this, and let's say like I kind of forget, like almost like that I'm married, right? It sounds terrible, but then like your wife seems sometimes I mean, just be honest with you, sometimes your wife seems like a burden when it comes to like the business, right? Because like you're like, oh, like I gotta go home, or I gotta I have to like spend time with my wife. But it just like, if that's the wrong mentality to have, but that's honestly how I have when I'm just like so focused on the business side. And so I think it just takes you to intentionally just take a bigger perspective on life in general. I think whenever like you take a step back from like your goals, like the whole goal in the beginning was financial freedom to spend time with my family or my wife, and that was like the whole reason in the beginning. But just somewhere along the way, you lost track of things, and like you get consumed with just like the pursuit of the second thing, and then forgetting the first thing. And so I mean, I think just being very intentional as far as like making sure like let's block off time to like spend time with my wife, and like shut off all like the noise from like the office. And I think one of the reasons why I was kind of attracted to Wealth Con and Ryan Pineda is because he has like a hard cutoff at like 5 p.m. He leaves the office, and then he doesn't think about things, and he just spends time with his family. And I think a trick, one of the tricks, like one of my someone shared with me once, is like, so when you leave the office, or number one, if you can have a separate office space where you work as opposed to your house, that's really helpful. So like we have like a little office where we're working out right now. And so I mean, long story short, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but like basically
It's
like
all
we
good.
had a home office where we were working, and my wife was also living here. But it's really hard to kind of like I guess distinguish between like life, home, and office. And so we actually have a condo now where we quote unquote live, and then our home office is now turned to just the office.
Okay, cool. So you've separated work and living environment. Does your
Yeah.
wife work with you in the business?
We had like she had a few, I mean, a few times when we were kind of working together, but we kind of butted heads a little bit too much. And so like at the end of the day, it was just, we thought like, it wasn't the most like healthy thing to work together. I think we see the world like a little bit differently. And so whenever like we had like a renovation, I was like, hey, I think we should do like a quick renovation. Where I was like, no, we gotta tear out all the walls, we gotta make it look pretty, like, and so at the end of the day, it's like it's like your marriage and your business, it's kind of like they get cloudy. And so in order to make the marriage happy and my wife happy, is okay, now we're gonna have to like make a business decision. So I'm gonna like make sure like my wife is happy, and so we're gonna go with what I don't think is a correct business decision, but we're gonna go with what my wife wants for the marriage. And so like that's where I think it got a little like cloudy. And it's
Mm.
I've definitely seen people where like they're both in the business together and they make it work. But just for us personally, I think we are like, let's just separate the business and our marriage, so just a clear kind of like split as far as like our roles and our responsibilities in each.
Oh, that's a really great point. And I think, yeah, some people do a great job of marrying the two and having, this fluid life where they're working together and living together and having this, Alex and Layla Hermosi, they're just like,
Yeah,
incredibly talented at not only dominating the world and, creating these incredible companies, but being, superstar
yeah, yeah,
partners for each other, right? Like you see how Alex shows up for Layla and how Layla shows up for Alex, and they just do it so well. But again, they've had to probably go through all kinds of iterations on what worked
yeah,
best for them to be able to get to this really sweet spot of where they are right now.
yeah, yeah.
Again, I don't know them at that level. I know them both personally, but I'm not in their houses to like be like, hey, what's it look like,
Well,
but
even your buddy Pace and his wife, right? I mean, like
oh my goodness,
they
yeah.
do a great job of just marrying business and I think family.
100%. He's such a great role model when it comes to uh, what it looks like to be a successful father, a successful husband, successful business person. And Laura is just, I mean, she's different.
Yeah,
She's so supportive, and she's always showing up for him, and bringing the children along with her in that
yeah,
support has just been one of the most magical things for me as a friend to witness. And they're a great example of what it looks like when it works, in a great capacity in the professional level, and marrying the two. And it's also really great to hear from you as hey, it doesn't always look like that. Sometimes
yeah,
you just got to have a clear split. This is business and this is our marriage, and we're going to focus on our marriage here, and I'm going to focus on the business there, and let's not muddy the waters, because there's no point in us fighting over things that aren't really our relationship, right? It's business stuff. So let's let business be business and us be us. So that's also a really great alternative
yeah.
to the other way, right? So thank you for sharing that.
I had like I heard this story or the study. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it kind of makes sense. It's like they did a study on like what makes the most successful countries in the world. So they did a study and like they did a lot of like research, and basically what makes a successful country in a strong nation is strong family units. And then they're like, okay, like if you can get a strong family unit, your nation's gonna be very strong as far as in general. And then but from there, what makes a strong family unit? And then after doing the study of what makes a strong family unit is like the mom and dad are together and they take care of the kids, and like the family is strong. So there's a strong marital bond between the husband and the wife, which like translates over to the children. And then they did the further study, like what makes a strong husband and wife family unit. And at the end of the day, it came down to this one thing: is the wife feels loved. So I think as long as like the result is like the wife feels loved, that's like kind of like the goal of like everything that happens. And there's like a lot of ways you can do that, a lot of ways to make that happen. Every wife is gonna be loved or feel loved in a different form or fashion. But I think that stuck with me as far as like my job as a husband. Number one, I mean, there's a lot of things like providing, being a leader, but then the ultimate goal is making sure that my wife feels loved. So I mean, like there's lots of small ways that I can do that, where I'm like, hey, texting her throughout the day or giving her phone calls, or when I come home, giving her like focused attention. There's a lot of like ways that like maybe you or other people's wives will feel loved. Some people like gifts, whatever it is, quality time or physical touch, whatever it is. But I think my end goal at the end of the day was whatever happens in business, I want to make sure that my wife feels loved. And if I can accomplish that, I feel like that's like I'm winning like in life or as a husband.
Awesome. That's you're right, and I think that all of us need that. So, really, really great insights there. You have a college degree and you work as a software engineer for quite some time. The world has definitely changed, and at some point you'll probably have some children, and you're going to have to come to the conclusion on whether or not they should be in college. Like, what are your thoughts right now in today's modern society on whether or not college is the way to go for young people?
I mean, honestly, it really depends on. I mean, so I mean, let's with that question, right? It depends. Like, there's so many factors for, like, I guess, like their goals and the way that they're built. And I think
Sure.
honestly, like being an entrepreneur in this past 2 years, like literally has like changed my life drastically. Like it's been like an amazing experience. But I also see a lot of guys who try to be entrepreneurs who just are not built for it, and then like their life goes in a negative direction where like they get into debt or like they get into like trouble or things don't happen like the way that they want to happen. And so I think like when you're looking at your life goals and life decisions, there's like the nature of like, okay, like what are you naturally built for, and like what's like your where can you like shine and be your super your best. And then kind of like the nurture is like along the ways, like given those things of like your personal goals and what you want to achieve out of life, there's certain paths that will get you to this point and certain paths will get you to this point. So if you're I mean, when I was working as W2, like I was happy. I mean, like I wasn't making any like much money, but like I had like great friends, great like relationships, like a great relationship with God. So I mean, like it's not always about the financial success or the time or money freedom. You can be a very happy person just working at W2. So I think it really matters on that person's goals and what they want to get out of life, and like really what's their purpose and what are their vision. And so like, but if your vision is to like make a big impact in the world, if you want to make money, if you want to leave a lasting legacy, I think it's way easier as an entrepreneur and maybe not focusing so much in college, as opposed to like, let's say I just want to get a stable job and I don't want to like take the risk of being like a entrepreneur. I'll work till I'm 65 and I'll retire, maybe work till 75, maybe. I mean, it depends on like how much I can save or put aside, whatever, how much I make. But just it really depends on their kind of like what their goals, the way that they're built, and kind of like what their dreams are,
I think that's all awesome. Daniel, I'm sure there's going to be people here that love and resonate with you and are going to want to know more about how they can do business with you or follow you. So what's the best place for people to find you, brother?
Best thing is on Instagram, Daniel Kong 808 on Instagram. I'm pretty active over there. So if you just hit me with a DM, if I don't respond right away, maybe it got lost in the spam folder. So just hit me up again. So that happens sometimes.
There you go, guys. Give Daniel a follow. Check out his Instagram. He's always working on stuff out there and is a wealth of knowledge to share with you. And if you guys like this video, do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps us out tremendously. And also subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And we'll see you all in the next one.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.